Good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. You got a little extra bonus edition of Frankly Speaking this morning. We are now broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. The computer chose the worst possible time to update, as it is wont to do. So thank you so much for sticking with us and joining us, because we've got a lot to cover this morning. Starting off with a viewer comment. Of course, viewer comments brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund. Contact them today. SteubenSeniorServicesFund.org. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. It's what we're talking about Wednesday with Mark. Trump said if there's rioting at the military parade, that it will be met with severe force. Trump made his remarks at Fort Bragg. And I don't understand the last part. Okay. But thank you, Mark. Thank you for all the waves coming in. We have a lot to talk about with the riots. Yes, I'm a little flustered. Didn't know if we get on the air, but here we are. Here we are. So we have updates from stories. I have two piles. Updates from stories throughout the week and through the last couple of months, really. And then we have, of course, the riots. And I think we need to start with the riots. Yesterday, the news broke and continues to break of left-wing nonprofits openly fueling the riots. We saw essentially tactical gear being handed out to the rioters. Left-wing nonprofit groups are openly helping to fuel the anti-ICE riots by handing out, and I can't use the term that they call the packages, but we'll say blank ICE. The packages include protective equipment. As the rioters continue to take over downtown every night and engage in these battles with police, federal agents, and the National Guard troops, this has expanded outside of LA. There were, I believe, 80 arrests yesterday in New York City. We're going to talk about the New York aspect of this. Governor Hochul will be testifying before Congress today on her sanctuary city policies. But back to this issue specifically. Chilling footage revealed one unidentified group handing out a truckload of face shields and other riot gear to protesters in downtown Los Angeles. These packages include goggles, face masks, gloves, and a phone number for what they're calling jail support. The left-wing nonprofit group is called Operation Healthy Hearts. Think of how misleading that is. If you're looking at charities, or maybe there's a booth somewhere where you can donate and you see Operation Healthy Heart, the last thing you would think your money is going to, that's why you always should do your research on where you donate, the last thing you think you're going to be helping with is handing out gear to rioters so they can do a better job of attacking our law enforcement. But it's sadly just one of several organizations that started to wade into these political issues. LA Poverty Department COO Pamela Miller said the federal government cut off our funding for other reasons, so we really have nothing left to lose. Well, there you go. Because maybe Doge or whoever took away some of their nonprofit, some of their federal funding, they have, quote, nothing left to lose. So what do you do when you have nothing left to lose? I guess provide tactical gear to rioters to better attack our law enforcement and military. That group, an arts nonprofit, yes, arts, that operates the Skid Row History Museum and Archive, allowed another organization to use their building to distribute these packages for protesters on Monday. Among the items available at the museum were anarchist pamphlets that advocate for setting cop cars on fire, burning down police precincts, and targeting banks and ATMs as part of a direct action against police. The pamphlets also include instructions on how to thwart police anti-riot tactics. Again, the leader of that organization, nonprofit organization, dismissed the violence that has overtaken Los Angeles every night as a few knuckleheads doing stupid, we'll say, stuff. The immigrant community is important, and they are vulnerable. ICE say we want to get rid of the criminals. Then where are they going? To churches, to schools. They're targeting people who can't protect themselves. We want to support people's rights to stand up to authoritarian takeover, and however many knuckleheads are doing stupid stuff, that doesn't make us want to back away from standing up for our neighbors' rights. Again, that is Pamela Miller, LA Poverty Department COO, who said because federal funding was cut to her organization, they have nothing left to lose. Now, Trump vowed yesterday, and feel free to weigh in if you want me to move along. We're going to have to talk about the riots. But if you want to talk about some other things, we have some really interesting stories, some really interesting updates. As Mark had mentioned, when it comes to Trump going to Fort Bragg, we also have quite a few New York State issues. We're going to tie in the riots to New York State because the riots that are happening, the protests where 80 people were arrested in New York City because of this anti-ICE protest. We're going to talk about that. But we'll do an informal poll. Your thoughts on when we should move on from the riots temporarily. Now, Trump vowed to liberate Los Angeles and slams the third world lawlessness. This was on night 5 of the anti-ICE riots raging through downtown. Have you noticed how interesting it is? Not only the media trying to twist themselves into a pretzel to present these as, well, originally mostly peaceful protests. Then you had that reporter that we brought to you yesterday that is receiving a lot of backlash that said, come on, it's just some people having fun watching cars burn. But we've also seen the change to it's just isolated areas of LA. Well, Trump defended his decision to deploy the National Guard and U.S. Marines to the City of Angels amid violent riots. He argued that without the reinforcements, LA would be burning like it did when wildfires swept through Southern California in January. Generations of Army heroes did not shed their blood on distant shores only to watch our country be destroyed by invasion and third world lawlessness, like is happening in California. Trump told soldiers at Fort Bragg, as commander-in-chief, I will not let that happen. The president declared that the 4,000 guardsmen and 700 Marines he dispatched to Los Angeles will protect federal law enforcement carrying out his mass deportation order from, quote, the attacks of a vicious and violent mob. If we didn't do it, there wouldn't be a Los Angeles. It would be burning today just like the houses were burning a number of months ago. Within the span of a few decades, Los Angeles has gone from being one of the cleanest, safest, and most beautiful cities on earth to being a trash heap with entire neighborhoods under the control of transnational gangs and criminal networks. It is horrible. As the entire world can now see, uncontrolled migration leads to chaos, dysfunction, and disorder. Very simply, we will liberate Los Angeles and make it clean, or make it free, clean, and safe again. It's happening very quickly. Now, the media, many in the media are trying to present this, and politicians like Bass and Newsom attempted anyway to go after Trump. But they're trying to present this in a way that this is what Trump wanted all along, that he actually wanted riots. Trump said what you're witnessing in California is a full-blown assault on peace, on public order, and on national sovereignty, carried out by rioters bearing foreign flags. And this is another kind of media aspect to this. And just keep in mind, if you want to send in a waiver or comment, because I know I had a little technical glitch at the beginning, and everybody's really quiet this morning, which is okay. Not a criticism. I just want to make sure everything's hunky-dory. But the media is presenting this and not hiding from it, that the symbol, if you will, of the riots are people flying Mexican flags. New York Times presented it in a way that they're just proud of their heritage. I think, personally, the optics are horrendous. Some even on the left saying, why are you taking photos flying the Mexican flag on the scooter as a car burns in the background, saying that it can lead to propaganda for Trump and his policies. And that was people on the far left that were upset over it. Okay, good. There's a wave. So I am up. I'm up and running. Okay. So Mexican and Palestinian flags have been a unique presence, if you will, in the demonstrations and violent rioting that have plagued the city for the last 5 days. Senator Tom Cotton argued in a Wall Street Journal op-ed that the presence of foreign flags arguably makes the LA riots worse than the unrest that broke out in Minneapolis in 2020 after the death of George Floyd. The senator called on Trump to consider invoking the seldom-used Insurrection Act of 1807, which would allow U.S. troops to conduct law enforcement activities to quell the rioting. After Trump's speech, Karen Bass announced that there will be a curfew going into effect in parts of downtown Los Angeles in response to the violence and looting. We're reaching a tipping point, said Bass. Okay, oh good. Yes, thank you. We have a viewer watching in Tennessee saying we're just taking it all in. I appreciate that. I got nervous, got quiet as soon as we got back on the air. I'm not doing that. This was not a cheap ploy just to get more waves, but darn it all, I'm counting them. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that everything was okay because we had quite a lag this morning. I thought we were going to make it at the last second. We were only about 20 seconds late. So Karen Bass did impose a curfew on downtown over the increased vandalism and looting. Again, she is, Maxine Waters, Newsom, so many others, Nancy Pelosi, trying to present it as if this was all peaceful. Gavin Newsom saying as much directly in his, I don't know what you call it, speech against Trump, specifically trying to say these were all peaceful protests until Trump got involved. That is a rewriting of history. That is Gavin Newsom still hoping to salvage what he sees as a presidential run. Now you're saying, Frank, Gavin Newsom's not worried about that in the middle of these riots. He is 100% worried about 2028 in the middle of these riots because coming off the heels of the wildfires that he handled so poorly and now this with the rioting in the streets. And again, and we're going to talk about the flags being flown, but the optics of that from a pure PR standpoint really, to those people on the left that were talking about it, helps Trump's cause and hurts the argument that Newsom and Bass are trying to make. But I do think that was an important step that Karen Bass imposed a curfew after essentially saying there was nothing to see here. There are no problems. And this comes after 5 straight days of riots, looting, violent clashes with police, and more than 150 arrests. She finally said, quote, "We reached a tipping point, declaring a local emergency after 23 businesses were vandalized Monday night. The curfew will run from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Wednesday within a 1 square mile section of downtown." So we'll see. That would be today, of course. We'll see how that plays out. The emergency order, which would potentially remain in effect for several more days, doesn't apply to downtown residents, local workers, and the homeless. If you do not live or work in downtown LA, stay away, she said. All right, we got to take a short break. We've got what Newsom had to say, trying to go scorched earth on Trump. I personally believe it fell flat, but I would like to hear your thoughts on it. We also are going to focus on some non-LA rioting topics as well. Elon Musk in the news, some New York State issues, Governor Hochul. We're also got just a couple quick things about Trump in general. But stay with us. We'll read your comments. Thank you again for checking in, telling me everything is running smoothly. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Harder makes it hard to keep your home looking like the work of art you've always envisioned it would be. Culligan softeners reduce hard water buildup and your cleaning time, transforming every drop, every splash, every rinse into the fine art of a long-lasting clean. With a Culligan water softener, revel in the breathtaking beauty of your home, just the way you've always pictured it. Culligan, water you love.
Scammers is a huge problem today. Worldwide, seniors lost $4.8 billion to scammers in 2024. The Steuben County Office for the Aging is here to help. Come to our seminar, Recognizing and Avoiding Financial Scams and Identifying Elder Abuse, Monday, June 18th at the Centenary United Methodist Church in Bath from 1:30 to 4 p.m. Learn how to identify scams, how to protect yourself, and fraud watch tips. Come to Centenary United Methodist Church in Bath, New York from 1:30 to 4 p.m. on June 18th. Learn more. Go to steubencountyny.gov/235.
Hi, this is Till, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio on Market Street in Corning. And it's time for the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program where we read viewer comments. How's this one? Good morning, Frank. Enjoy your day. Well, thank you. Good morning to you, and I hope that you enjoy your day as well. Comment from a different viewer. Don't all these people that are rioting have jobs? Maybe they're getting paid to riot. There is some of that. I think it's kind of that mixed bag where there are people profiting off of this. But there's also those that are the useful idiots, as the political term goes, which is they're just joining in and not reaping the financial benefit, I suppose. So I think it's a mix. Now, Gavin Newsom tried to go scorched earth against Trump. I personally, well, first of all, other than the technical glitches, well, I shouldn't bias your opinion at all, so you can feel free to weigh in. But he ripped into Trump for, quote, what he called a brazen abuse of power by deploying troops to L.A., and claimed his political rival is intentionally causing ongoing chaos in the city. And that is the new talking point, that this is exactly what Trump wants, is what they're arguing, that he wanted these riots. He heightened his feud with Trump during a Tuesday night address while pleading with protesters to remain peaceful as the city grapples with outright lawlessness. Karen Bass imposing that curfew because there's been so much looting, so many rioting. How many businesses did I say? 30-odd businesses being destroyed. Anti-immigration customs enforcement demonstrations began last Friday. As we know, we don't need to give the history. Newsom said that this brazen abuse of power by a sitting president inflamed a combustible situation, putting our people, our officers, and even our National Guard at risk. That's when the downward spiral began. He doubled down on his dangerous National Guard deployment by fanning the flames even harder, and the president, he did it on purpose. So the narrative now, and this is another fine example, because a lot of people do in the media want Newsom to be the presidential candidate. This is another fine example of who brings up the talking point first. Do the Democrats give it to the media, or the media give it to the Democrats? Because it is very eerie, the similar language that both use, the Democrat politicians and the media. Newsom insisted that there was violence when protesters first erupted, while there was violence when protests first erupted, local authorities largely had the situation under control. Trump's actions spurred unrest and placed, quote, theatrics over public safety. Newsom has filed legal action to stop the controversial deployment. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Now, again, in a defiant tone at Fort Bragg, Trump saying he's going to liberate L.A., and that the government would use every asset at our disposal to quell violence and restore law and order. Now, Newsom stressed authorities have already arrested more than 200 people and are looking to take more into custody. He pleaded with protesters not to turn violent. Now, I understand that plea, but that plea also comes off looking weak, doesn't it? When this should have been stopped essentially from the beginning, or at least slowed. But his response, much like with the wildfires, Not successful, but this is what he said. If you incite violence, and I want to be clear about this, if you incite violence or destroy our communities, you're going to be held to account. This type of criminal behavior will not be tolerated, full stop. Oh, I hate that. I'm sorry, but that full stop idea is so awkward to me. I know it was a cool thing, I guess, maybe at one time, and then people like Gavin Newsom started using it. It's just essentially saying that my point is really important. Full stop. That's what you say to protesters that have now turned into rioters that are looting your stores. Full stop. Okay. Oof. I didn't realize he said that at the end. That just made me uncomfortable even repeating it. But he falsely claimed riots only began after Trump federalized the guard. That's just not true. So take into account as well that at the beginning of his speech, it was plagued by technical difficulties. The audio was eventually restored to his speech, but the beginning was still unavailable. From the bits that you could hear, the governor charged the president with overriding the rule of law by sending National Guard troops to quell the ongoing riots. But again, falsely claiming that the riots only began after Trump got involved. In fact, riots, which keep in mind during his speech was a word that Newsom never used the term riots. They started on Friday before Trump had done a thing. Now, according to Newsom's description of the timeline, he presents it as beginning on Saturday morning, which is a very important difference in his mind. That helps his numbers. He said on Saturday morning when federal agents jumped out of an unmarked van near a Home Depot parking lot, they began grabbing people. In response, everyday Los Angeles residents came out to exercise their constitutional right to free speech and assembly, to protest their government's actions. In turn, the state of California and the city and county of Los Angeles sent out police officers to help keep the peace, and with some exceptions, they were successful. Donald Trump, without consulting with California's law enforcement leaders, commandeered 2,000 of our state's National Guard members to deploy on our streets. That's when the downward spiral began. He doubled down on his dangerous National Guard deployment by fanning the flames even harder, and the president did it on purpose. As the news spread throughout LA, anxiety for family and friends ramped up. Protests started again. By night, several dozen lawbreakers became violent and destructive. They vandalized property. They tried to assault police officers. The actual timeline, as related by ABC News, not in any way, shape, or form a conservative source, goes like this. June 6th, Friday, not Saturday. ICE agents carry out a series of immigration sweeps across Southern California. Reports of federal agents running after people in a parking lot of a Home Depot in the Westlake neighborhood near downtown LA start circulating in the community. Around 3 p.m. local time, again Friday, a crowd begins gathering in the downtown fashion district after ICE agents show up in an apparel manufacturing business. Aerial footage taken by ABC's Los Angeles station show what appears to be ICE agents loading 2 white passenger vehicles with people in handcuffs. As the vehicle leaves the apparel business, protesters try unsuccessfully to stop them, including one individual who was seen lying down in the path of one of the cars. Several hours later, again Friday, a large group of protesters gathered outside of the Edward R. Roybal Federal Building and U.S. Courthouse, calling for an end to immigration raids in the city. Video footage shows protesters vandalizing the building, heckling police, and throwing bottles and other objects at officers who use shields to protect themselves. Police in riot gear are seen confronting protesters with batons and what appear to be tear gas launchers. So that was from Friday, when the destruction and the violence began. Newsom did not mention the raid of the clothing factory, but implied that it took place Saturday, not Friday. The governor also told another, we'll say, fib. He claimed that Trump is planning to use the United States military on Saturday to put on a vulgar display to celebrate his birthday, just as other failed dictators have done in the past. Now, in fact, the U.S. Army, not the military as a whole, is celebrating its 250th birthday. It was founded on June 14th, 1775. Okay, it just happens to share a birthday with Trump. So that was kind of why I said that I believed Newsom's response was a failed response. He also said he fears Trump's mental state. Now, keep in mind, this is a man, Gavin Newsom, who campaigned for Joe Biden right up until the end. He was one of the biggest defenders of Biden, saying that he was healthy, sharp as a tack, those type of things. And that's why many people thought that Newsom was campaigning for himself, thinking that if Biden did have to drop out, that Newsom would be the leader of the pack. But he was defending Biden's mental health. But now, all of a sudden, he's concerned about Trump's mental health. We'll tell you why he had nothing to worry about, why he's wrong, and Trump proved him wrong. But we're going to read your comments when we come back. Keep those comments and those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
I'm Marion Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Your Pioneers are at home this Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. Thursday, June 12th, it's Stitch's birthday and free kids' meals from Texas Roadhouse. Friday, June 13th, it's Fireworks, 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 presented by Centralis Health. Sunday, June 15th, it's free Elmira Heat Treat Frisbees and post-game catch with Dad. Get your tickets early. Call 734-2690.
Attention, it's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta, a day full of fun for all ages. Register at watkinsglen.com/waterfront festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025. Race starts at 2 p.m. On your mark, get set, row.
Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program, where we read viewer comments. Mark writes in, Bass and Newsom did nothing when the riots started, and now they're putting in a curfew. I say it's a little too little and a little too late. Thank you, Mark. Comment from a different viewer. Why do people always jump to the, quote, don't these people have jobs, end quote? Did the people in D.C. on January 6th have jobs? I would say why people, and you're right, that's a common refrain. I think when you're on your 5th day of protesting and then rioting, I think it is a fair question to ask. That's a lot of time, unless you take, I guess, maybe some PTO, take some time off. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. It is a good thing that the mayor in L.A. has the military to help enforce the curfew she has announced. Good point. So Newsom kind of tried to imply that there was some mental issues with Trump because the president forgot when they last spoke within hours. Now, this is for a man who is in charge of California as governor and didn't know the time frame of when the actual rioting began. But President Trump hit back at Newsom's claim that the president did not recently call him, telling Fox News he spoke to the governor for about 16 minutes on Saturday. Trump told Fox News Tuesday while traveling to Fort Bragg that Newsom did not pick up his first call over the weekend, but that he picked up the second call and the pair spoke for about 16 minutes on Saturday. I told him to essentially get his blank in gear and stop the riots, which were out of control. More than anything else, this shows what a liar he is. Said I never called. Trump then provided a screenshot of the phone call dated June 7th at 1:23 a.m. White House Director of Communications Stephen Chung added in comments to Fox Digital Tuesday afternoon, saying the president called Gavin Newsom to tell him to get his blank in gear. The governor has clearly decided to disgustingly side with the violent rioters instead of protecting Californians. The only liar here is Newsom, who continues to fail his state as he prioritizes doing interviews with leftist media to gaslight the public instead of helping his state, and also releasing that video, not just doing interviews. Newsom claimed Trump did not call him or leave a voicemail in the past day. There was no call, not even a voicemail. Americans should be alarmed that a president deploying Marines onto our street doesn't even know who he's talking to. So that's the exact quote of when he was questioning Trump's mental state. This is a man, the hypocrisy. Of course, the media is not going to call him out on it, but to think of how much he defended Biden right up till the end, and now he's saying that Americans should be alarmed that a president deploying Marines onto our street doesn't even know who he's talking to. This call is from 3 days ago. The governor's press office added on X following the White House's pushback on Newsom's claim that Trump did not call. Newsom's office added in an email that the governor's comment is clearly in regards to the president's comment this morning of a day ago, and that Newsom had already confirmed his Saturday phone call. This is what's important. Newsom's trying to score political points because right now he's a little bloodied, as they say, when it comes to his presidential run. When you have the wildfires and now the rioting, he's concerned. And when you start to see articles from not just conservative outlets, from various outlets saying that it looks like his chances of being the nominee are getting longer and longer by the day. Now, the federal judge did deny Newsom's lawsuit ordering Trump withdraw the National Guard. Judge Charles Breyer, who was appointed by former President Bill Clinton, denied Newsom's emergency request for a temporary restraining order regarding Trump deploying 4,000 National Guardsmen to Los Angeles. Imagine seeing the riots in the street and saying that you want to stop the National Guard from coming in to protect your fellow Californians, your constituents, if you will. Breyer also granted the Trump administration's request for additional time to file a response brief and gave them a deadline of Wednesday morning. Plaintiffs Gavin Newsom in the state of California filed an ex parte motion for a temporary restraining order at 11 a.m. on June 10, 2025. Defendants Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, and the Department of Defense requested 24 hours from that time that the plaintiffs filed their motion for a temporary restraining order to file a response brief. Breyer added that plaintiffs may file a response to that opposition by Thursday morning. A little bit lawyer-ease there, but this quick update. Trying to give you everything that we can, fit them in as we can, because we have other issues. We'll probably wait until, probably till 7 o'clock hour. We'll change topics and then wrap up today's discussion again on the riots. There's just so much to cover. I do want to tie it in with New York State, because Governor Hochul is set to testify before Congress on New York sanctuary policies. That's supposed to be today. In response, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano and others written a letter to Hochul demanding just some answers. We're going to talk about that as well, and quite a few other things. Stay with us. We'll read your comments when we come back. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Frankly Speaking, Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs.
Attention, it's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta. A day full of fun for all ages. Register at WatkinsGlen.com/Waterfront Festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14th, 2025. Race starts at 2 p.m. On your mark, get set, row.
It's a new season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the Southern Tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
If you have one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson Studio right here on Market Street in Corning. And let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program where we read viewer comments. As for jobs, January 6th was one day. The left stays for weeks. That was kind of the point I was trying to make. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. For years, there has been a movement in Southern California to make California part of Mexico. They're jumping on the riot wagon as well. Make no mistake, this is an anti-American movement. And many people are saying that because of the fact that the Mexican flag has become the symbol of these riots. Now, New York Times tries to twist that into they're just proud of their heritage. CNN admitting that has become the symbol yesterday. But to your point, to that viewer's point, Daniel McCarthy, who writes, is the editor, of Modern Age, a conservative review. He says the riots that kicked off in Los Angeles last weekend aren't just about illegal immigration. They're part of a revolutionary movement. Anti-colonialism is a term often heard in American college classrooms. But off campus, virtually no one takes it seriously. It's just another harebrained, radical academic theory, right? Yes, the theory is mostly silly, but the practice is deadly serious. Most Americans and Europeans today feel ashamed of imperialism and racism, and they're glad to be rid of colonies and slavery. But that injustice is a thing of the past. However, much of its legacy haunts our presence. The ideology of anti-colonialism says otherwise. Imperialism and racial exploitation never ended and never can end. Not until settler and colonizer, powers overthrown everywhere. Israel is the focus of the most vitriolic and violent anti-colonial rage, but the United States is just as guilty of being, quote, a settler colony state in these people's minds. Mexico, and indeed all of Latin America, is America's Palestine. And when illegal immigrants cross the border, when they resist deportation, when they and their allies riot, this is justified resistance to colonialism in their mind. In Palestinian terms, it's an intifada, or at least the beginnings of one. Palestinians launched two intifadas against Israel from 1989 to 93 and from 2000 to 2005. These uprisings involved rioting, throwing stones at police and soldiers, hurling Molotov cocktails, and violence up to and including suicide bombings, as well as boycotts, strikes, and other forms of economic coercion and nonviolent protest. An American might recognize many of these tactics, though not suicide bombing, thank God, not only as scenes from LA in recent days, but as similar features from other left-wing protest movements through the last few years. There isn't some grand anti-colonialist conspiracy directing all of this, although there are links between one outburst and another. Usually the thugs who call themselves Antifa, for example, are in the vanguard of the provocation. But a conspiracy isn't necessary. The ideology is a franchise, teaching anyone who believes in it to immediately identify enemy groups and what slogans to chant when harassing or hurting them. No radical has to wait for orders to know what to say and what to do to police or Jewish students on campus. On social media, conservatives have joked about the Mexican flag some LA rioters have been waving. After all, if you're proud of Mexico and its flag, why would you object to being sent back there? But those flags aren't being waved to make a point about Mexican territory. They're making a point about American territory, Los Angeles itself, which in anti-colonialist eyes belongs to illegal aliens as least as much as to any American. Never mind that Mexico was a product of settler colonization by Spain and practiced settler colonization itself in places occupied by indigenous peoples. Anti-colonialism is not about history or consistent philosophical principles. It's about power and acquiring it for those who are willing to take to the streets. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting point without going all the way through his piece. But law and law enforcement has to prevail in Los Angeles, but this is a battle that has to be won in the classroom and the conscience, as well as in the streets. There will always be some violent extremists, but what sets fire to our cities again and again is the complacency of ordinary Americans who fail to recognize a radical premise when its consequences are broadcast on the nightly news and world news as well. Kind of a powerful statement there from Daniel McCarthy. Now, Speaker Johnson says that Gavin Newsom ought to be tarred and feathered. Haven't heard that in a little while, over his response to the riots raging in Los Angeles. Speaker Johnson saying, I'm not going to give you legal analysis on whether Gavin Newsom should be arrested, but he ought to be tarred and feathered. That reform, if you're not familiar with that term, which I'm sure you are, but the New York Post was kind enough to tell us what it means. It refers to a form of vigilante punishment frequently deployed in America's colonial days. Okay. In modern time, the phrase is often used to mean public rebuke. Newsom, however, appeared to take Speaker Johnson's comments literally. Quote, good to know we're skipping the arrest and going straight for the 1700s-style forms of punishment. A fitting threat given the GOP wants to bring our country back to the 18th century. Newsom's trying. He's Johnny Tryhard, isn't he? I don't know if it's working, but he saw his star rising and then kind of crashing down because of the disastrous handling of the LA fires, or the California fires, where even people far left, actors and actresses and musicians, were calling for his ouster. So he's trying. The speaker noted that the discussion of whether to charge Newsom with a crime, this is Speaker Johnson, is not my lane. Look, he's standing in the way of the administration and the carrying out of federal law. He's applauding the bad guys and standing in the way of the good guys. He's a participant and accomplice in our federal agents not just being disrespected, but assaulted. All right, well, we got some comments coming in. Now, Rachel Maddow, covering this from a news front. Rachel Maddow declares victory against Trump over these protests. This was on Monday, but it did not make the news until Wednesday. Why? Because no one was paying attention. But MSNBC host Rachel Maddow took aim at Donald Trump on Monday and claimed he was, quote, panicking over all the protests against him, telling him, game over, big guy, you lose. I just got to say, it's that arrogance and that smugness. Yeah, I mean, listen, I know she gets good ratings from MSNBC. Last I knew, she was just doing the one day, but I think they changed her contract to where now she's maybe a couple days a week or maybe full weekdays. But it's that kind of smug arrogance on a major issue that did not play well in November, but I guess still headed down that road. So again, telling the President of the United States, Donald Trump, after we watched riots in the street, quote, game over, big guy, you lose. He had no idea what to do with the sustained and growing and intractable, indomitable protest and opposition of the American people against him, and so he has decided to try to fix it by using the army. Is this an indomitable protest and opposition of the American people against him? So you're saying from November till today, the American people went from landslide support to completely turning against him. But all right. Let's move on. Sure. Game over, big guy, you lose. The movement against Trump is unstoppable, now more than ever. Oh, it is still once a week show. Oh, wow. What we are seeing right now in California is a president panicking. We have never before in the history of the U.S. presidency seen a president who is less popular than this one at this point in his term. And we have never seen a president less politically skilled, less politically equipped than this one to turn that kind of problem around. And so he is panicked. He is trying to hit the eject button. Maddow argued during her show that someone convinced Trump attacking immigrants would work for him politically. In town after town, in blue states and red states, in school after school, in parish after parish, in city after city, it has run him into a wall because the American people do not want this kind of cruelty against the immigrants who live among us and our neighbors and our friends, and facing that kind of heart and that kind of resolve, and that kind of nonviolent good cheer. He has no idea what to do. Okay, this is not that anybody cares, but Maddow had returned to only hosting her show once a week on Mondays after working every weekday through Trump's first 100 days. That must have been a real nightmare. Okay. So game over. Trump. Game over, excuse me. Big guy. You lose. All right. We got a lot of comments coming up. Stay with us. Man, this show's going quickly. We are going to focus on some other things other than the riots. Don't worry. We're going to do what we did yesterday. Riots. Then we're going to talk about some other issues we need to catch up on. And then probably wrap up the program with just a couple other updates. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Are you having trouble hearing your TV or listening to conversations in loud spaces? Then it might be time to consider Nano hearing aids. Don't mistake Nanos for cheap amplifiers. Nanos are FDA-registered OTC hearing aids, which means no more having to go to a doctor and spend thousands. Nano hearing aids are now offering $100 off through this special TV offer. Order right now and get 2 CIC rechargeable hearing aids for only $297. And if you're not happy, return them for a full refund.
Attention, it's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta. A day full of fun for all ages. Register at WatkinsGlen.com/Waterfront Festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14th, 2025. Race starts at 2 p.m. On your mark, get set, row.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at WYDC. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. And this is the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program where we read viewer comments. Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. We've got some great comments. Buckle up. First one. I'm wondering how the owners of the property that is being destroyed by rioters feel about their cause. We seldom hear who winds up paying for the damage. A lot of businesses don't come back. In my opinion, rioters are punishing business owners for news eye candy and looting to get free stuff. Yeah, it is very unfortunate. You think about when one of the words being thrown around a lot has been community. We brought you that article the other day where someone was quoted as saying, "That's the community I want," in reference to the rioting. But community's thrown around a lot. So you punish your own community members, the people that are trying to make a living with these businesses, these stores. They're the ones that ultimately suffer in this. And to me, kind of to your point, all it does is turn people against any kind of cause, if your cause were to be justified. This goes for any issue. I don't care what the cause is. If you're shutting down streets, affecting people where they can't get through, where they can't drive home from work, or heaven forbid, go to an emergency situation, you're losing people right there. But when you start destroying the kind of the mom and pop shops, but even the bigger name places that are, obviously bringing tax revenue into the area, bringing people into the area to help your community, I'm with you. It's the news loves it, because they get to capture it on camera and they'll probably win awards. Okay, Ken writes in, Frank, I've been lucky enough to not get interested in participating in any kind of social media. Good for you, Ken. However, my wife joined the fray years ago. One of the contributors on a political social media app explained to her how Fox News has been lying to her on the current LA riots. She said that the protests are justified and peaceful. Any footage of violence or fires was from the riots that occurred 5 or more years ago, and that Fox is inserting into the current footage to gin up trouble. I view this as an example of how desperate the left, even at the sheeple level, is to blame the other side for the misdeeds of their side. That's a very good point. And yet they'll tell the world that it's the conservatives that are conspiratorial. But if they actually believe that Fox News needs to insert footage from years ago, when we see, even on what you would not consider conservative news, seeing the violence and the destruction, it's people that, again, have twisted themselves up so much by hate for Trump that they're looking for anything. All right. And good for you for not being on social media, Ken. I'm jealous. Next up, comment from a different viewer. Frank, in my opinion, rioting is very negative, and it does not help your cause. Sorry, I stole your thunder there. I said it just a couple moments ago, but you're exactly right. It turns people from your cause, just like when you block traffic. But I'll continue. The destruction of city and personal property turns the rioters' cause into anarchy and does not help their cause and makes these individuals look very ignorant. Gavin Newsom is a very ignorant individual and has no positive solutions to end the rioting. He should be tarred and feathered. Thank you very much. And finally, before we go to break, we spent that whole segment on these amazing comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. My mother made me lose my desire to incite riots back in 1965 when I was 4 years old. I guess that it now takes the National Guard to take the place of a good mother. Well, there you go. Thank you. I like that. On that note, let's take a short break. Getting ready to wrap up hour number 1. Stay with us.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Hey, this is John with John's Tree Service. Spring is here and summer is coming. Do you have a tree in your backyard that just doesn't look nice? Kind of makes your property look a little rough? John's Tree Service, licensed, insured, locally owned, and rated A+ with the Better Business Bureau. Do you have a monster tree in your backyard? Is there no access to it? Can it not be climbed? Is it too dead? We can put our crane and reach over your house and pull that tree down, do it in a safe manner. Coming to a neighborhood near you to service all your tree needs. Call today at 607-377-6513.
Attention, it's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta, a day full of fun for all ages. Register at watkinsglen.com/waterfront festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025. Race starts at 2 p.m. On your mark.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Wrapping up hour number 1, we are going to get into some other issues. I'm going to start with some more on the riots that we have to mention to tie it into New York. Then we'll get into some other updates. I'm going to change that. I think we are going to talk a little bit more about the riots than I expected at the beginning of the 7 o'clock hour. We will get into other topics. We will sprinkle in some other topics. I know we have a lot of people that watched the Belmont. One thing I learned, I didn't hear it, but they're passing along video where Hochul was met with a chorus of boos at the Belmont Stakes while presenting the winner's trophy. Did you notice that? That's a major piece by a major outlet. She is going to be testifying before Congress today. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. And we may start the program with a couple of just oddball stories I just really have to get to. We'll figure it out. That's what's great about this program. Pelosi claims that violence from the LA riots is due to exuberance of the moment, very reminiscent of what Rachel Maddow was saying, that you just can't stop this momentum that is anti-Trump momentum. Speaking at a press conference, Pelosi explained that when there is a large gathering of people, anarchists view it as an opportunity and they move in. She continued to claim that the images or videos showing a burned car or a broken window may be due to the exuberance of the moment, or from anarchists. When, and I say this as a former party chair, when there is a gathering, a large gathering of people, the anarchists see it as an opportunity and they move in. So you always have to be careful, whether you see a burned car or a broken window or whatever it is. It may be the exuberance of the moment, but it may be the anarchists setting in. Wow, the exuberance. That's a new way of putting it. You know, someone just got a little carried away. It's like the reporter that said 2 days ago, people are just sitting around having fun, watching cars burn. Relax. I got time. CNN says the Mexican flag has become a defining symbol of the LA riots. This off the heels of the New York Times saying similar 2 days ago. New York Times presenting it in a positive way, saying that it's just showing the heritage because they know they want to take away some of the oomph of how powerful those images are. With many on the left, not many, with certain reporters and certain talking heads on the left saying this is horrible for their cause because it could be used as propaganda by Trump because it looks so bad. It really proves Trump's point. But CNN has declared that the Mexican flag is the defining symbol of the riots. In a piece titled, "The Mexican Flag has become a defining symbol of the LA protest," it is boasting that rioters are using the foreign flag to express solidarity with immigrants and denounce the Trump administration's raids. But the waving of foreign flags speaks to the generations of people from Mexico and other Latin American countries who have called for the U.S. and particularly California home. The flag means their families. The flag means their communities. It's not about having an international invasion. Now, Vice President J.D. Vance has called the rioters insurrectionists and said the riot is even further proof why Republicans ought to pass Trump's big, beautiful bill. Trump also vowed consequences for, quote, animals burning American flags in L.A., because that's been another symbol of these riots, and also slamming those waving other countries' flags. These are animals, but they proudly carry the flags of other countries. They don't carry the American flag. They only burn it. Did you see a lot of the flags being burned? He told military members at Fort Bragg. They weren't being burned by people from other countries or from people that love our country. People that burn the American flag should go to jail for 1 year. We'll see if we can get that done. We're going to try and get that done. We're working with some of the senators. All right, on that note, keep those comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking, and hour number 2 after this.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Scammers is a huge problem today. Worldwide, seniors lost $4.8 billion to scammers in 2024. The Steuben County Office for the Aging is here to help. Come to our seminar, Recognizing and Avoiding Financial Scams and Identifying Elder Abuse, Monday, June 18th at the Centenary United Methodist Church in Bath from 1:30 to 4 p.m. Learn how to identify scams, how to protect yourself, and fraud watch tips. Come to Centenary United Methodist Church in Bath, New York from 1:30 to 4 p.m. on June 18th. Learn more. Go to steubencountiny.gov/235.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We're having a great conversation this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get to a couple more viewer comments here in just a second. The viewer comments brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. All right, let's go to the comments. I would like to point out the number of college-indoctrinated women at the protest. My estimate is 2/3, and they are the ones attacking police. That has been a common refrain documented when it comes to the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses, that it is very often the largest population at the anti-Semitic protests have been women. And there's been studies on it. There's been a lot of questions of why that is, what has led to this, why younger people have become far more left-wing. So you raise a good point. Mark writes in, I believe that Trump also put the military into L.A. to prove a very important point. No matter what illegals do to stop ICE, they will prevail with whatever force needed. They meaning Trump and the Trump administration. Comment from a different viewer. Both times the president has called out the National Guard without asking the governor was because of Democrats. 1965, when Democrats tried to stop Martin Luther King March, and in Selma, and I think the rest of it got cut off. I appreciate that, but I do. Yeah, anyway, thank you for that. A couple other comments coming in since those, I should say, we'll get to in a moment. Now, again, the opinion from many in the media, this coming from, I wanted to say it was the Daily Beast. So the Daily Beast is a far-left organization, but the sad thing is they're presenting this opinion, and this opinion is also being presented by various politicians like Newsom, Bass, others. How ICE's LA raids spiraled into the riot Trump thirsted for. The Trump White House has been demanding many, many more deportations, but hasn't been getting enough of the worst it is supposedly targeting. So ICE resolved to target the more abundant, not so bad. And it goes on and on and on. It's actually, I think, 7 pages. I can't even use most of the language that they use, but that Trump has been thirsting for these riots. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was brutally mocked by critics over a delusional post that she made describing the anti-ICE riots in Los Angeles as, and I quote, peaceful demonstrations. And that's a narrative that many Democrat politicians, but also the media, try to push until they can't push any longer. It'll be peaceful demonstrations, and it'll be mostly peaceful demonstrations. Now they're saying it's contained to certain areas. The list goes on and on. The message, Clinton posting her first and only comment as of Tuesday morning regarding the LA riots, described them as peaceful demonstrations before Trump mobilized the National Guard over the weekend. California Governor Gavin Newsom didn't request the National Guard be deployed to his state following peaceful demonstrations. Trump sent them anyway. This is Clinton. And the first time in 60 years, the president has made that choice. Trump's goal isn't to keep Californians safe. His goal is to cause chaos because chaos is good for Trump. And she disabled comments, so you couldn't comment on what she had to say. These are not peaceful protests, Hillary, with many videos being shared. A public figure and a fraud like herself shouldn't be able to lock her replies. Delusional. But that's the narrative. You had Maxine Waters saying similar things, that they were peaceful protests. As a matter of fact, Maxine Waters, by the way, got torched by feds for taunting guardsmen. Did you see that? And spewing lies about the riots, trying to enter that jail, trying to get her name in the limelight. Tricia McLaughlin from DHS said that the access to the Los Angeles detention facility was temporarily restricted to ensure the safety of both detainees and uniformed personnel. When Waters hurried towards a group of guardsmen entering a plywood-protected door to the building over the weekend. This 86-year-old, 18-term Democrat approached the guardsman saying, "Hello, I'm Congresswoman Waters," but the last one bluntly told her to talk to public affairs and slammed the door. Then she was denied entry. The list goes on and on. But the feds are criticizing for the way she handled that. But there's a lot of people trying to make a name for themselves by going to these ICE facilities As a matter of fact, the one who maybe perhaps did it most famously, Representative LaMonica McIver, has been indicted on federal charges over her clash with law enforcement at the ICE facility. Remember, it got so bad that they tried to, what's the word I want to use? They tried to kind of get ahead of it and say, well, if there is a video of her pushing a guard, it's going to be fake, which always should raise a couple red flags. Representative LaMonica McIver was indicted Tuesday on federal charges stemming from a confrontation with law enforcement at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention center at Newark last month. The interim U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Alina Habba, said on X that a federal grand jury indicted McIver on 3 counts of forcibly impeding and interfering with federal law enforcement officers. While people are free to express their views for or against particular policies, they must not do so in a manner that endangers law enforcement and the communities those officers serve. McIver called the legal proceedings a brazen attempt at political intimidation and said she will not plead guilty. She, much like Newsom with his speech and others, they love Maxine Waters. They love this because they know it's going to be huge for their fundraising. The far left is going to send more money because she is a part of the resistance. But those are just a couple of quick updates. Here's a question I'll pose to you, and this is a opinion piece or an editorial coming from AMNY. And they say that protesters and ICE agents need to keep the masks off. Now, I would say if you're just talking about the kind of the bandana that law enforcement is sometimes wearing, maybe. I think that has some issues with like tear gas if that's being used and like that. But many have to wear those head guards because what is being thrown at them. So I don't think it's as easy to enforce this for an ICE agent as it is for protesters. Also, you have the far left who likes to dox the agents to intimidate them, to scare them, to threaten their families. That's my opinion, but I would like to hear what your thoughts are on that. There's zero reason, said the editorial at AM New York, there's zero reason why any protester or law enforcement officer should be wearing a mask. This is not the Wild West. This is America, and we need to start seeing each other for who we are. Masks were necessary during COVID, but and it goes on and says it's wrong that these anti-Semitic, even though they call them pro-Palestine, but anti-Semitic protesters have been wearing the masks, giving a wave there out on the street. It's a beautiful morning. But they're also critical of ICE agents wearing those masks. Okay, we have some other comments on this. I do want to jump ahead to the New York side of this, and then we're going to talk about other issues this morning as well, though I do see a lot of comments coming in, and I do appreciate that. We're going to get to those a little bit later on. But over 80 people were arrested during what could be described as a chaotic scene in New York City yesterday, kind of a copycat of this anti-ICE protests. Thousands flooding the street, sign-holding demonstrators. You had hurling objects at police officers, clashing with police. Thousands of angry New Yorkers took to the streets. As the sky grew dark, over 80 demonstrators were taken into custody by the NYPD at several locations across downtown in the area surrounding Federal Plaza, according to police sources. Many of the people cuffed were charged with disorderly conduct, and the number of arrests is expected to grow as the department does a final tally. After multiple hours of this protesting during the daylight, several chaotic scenes broke out across downtown after the sun set. Large groups of protesters, many wearing the same face coverings as the anti-Israel political movement, carried on its opposition to the NYPD. Now, the reason I mention this is because in Albany, pro-sanctuary Democrat activists launch an Albany sit-in to push law that would restrict ICE. So I guess we're too strict on illegal immigration in New York. Is that what we're learning? Also, whether it's the chance or just holding a sit-in, I guess there's no new ideas when it comes to protests. Okay. Activists and socialist Democrat lawmakers held a sit-in on a busy street outside the state capitol to push for a bill that would expand the state's controversial sanctuary policies. The so-called New York For All Act would stop all police and New York State employees from working with immigration authorities. The demonstration, we will remain here, hold on, until NY for all passes, one activist yelled. Don't bite off more than you can chew. That happens too often. I'm going to hold a hunger strike. I'm going to be here until this passes. It looks bad when you quit. The demonstration blocking Washington Avenue came as unrest over ICE raids, of course, grew in New York and Los Angeles at first, now New York. They say the support for that bill is shaky at best, but you never know with one-party rule in Albany. So don't take it lightly. Don't laugh it off. Assemblyman Matt Slater, a Republican from Westchester, said while President Trump continues to remove dangerous criminals here illegally, the New York for All Act will make our state a safe harbor and magnet for illegal immigrants. Clearly, Democrats learned nothing from the failed open border policies of the past. Now, the reason I mentioned that is, number one, it's not to say it might not go through Albany, sadly. But the reason I say it also is because I want to tie it in with Governor Hochul, who is testifying before Congress today on sanctuary policies. We'll get to some of your comments, hopefully, when we come back. I do have to run off real quick, but stay with us. We'll be right back, frankly speaking, here. Uh-oh. Did that freeze? Hold on just one quick second. I can't go to my breaks for some reason. That's troubling. A couple of technical glitches this morning. Interesting. There we go. I think we're good now. All right, let's take it. There we are. Take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
William Mattar has earned a reputation for being a straight shooter.
Because I am a straight shooter.
For being honest.
Here's what we're willing to pay.
Because I am honest.
For winning a lot.
Because we win a lot.
If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, it matters who you hire. It matters in the experience as well as the results. Call William Mattar. Visit WilliamMattar.com.
Since 1983, Nissan has been assembling award-winning vehicles for you, right here in America. And we're committed to keeping our lineup affordable and free from new tariffs. That's why we've lowered MSRP on our best-selling Rogue and Pathfinder. So you can get the car you want, at the price you want, knowing Nissan is here for you at the Nissan Summer Sales Event.
Now get 0% APR financing for 60 months on the 2025 Nissan Rogue or Pathfinder.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I didn't get a chance. I got through some of your comments. Consistent refrain, and I hope people don't mind that I'm not going to read every single one of them, because there's a lot here where the crux of the argument is, if you don't like it here, if you're going to wave the Mexican flag, then you don't have to stay here. The argument being that you can go back to Mexico. That was the whole ICE policy that you're now protesting. So it's a little confusing. So I don't mean to breeze through everybody's, but we're going to read some other comments here in just a little bit, but I didn't have the time to get through all of them. So we'll wait till the next segment. All right, Hochul is set to testify before Congress on New York sanctuary policies. She's supposed to testify today. One of the policies Hochul is expected to be asked about is a 2017 executive order that was signed by former Governor Andrew Cuomo during Donald Trump's first term. The order prevents state employees, including law enforcement officers, from disclosing an individual's immigration status unless required by law or necessary to determine eligibility for a benefit or service. Now, kind of piggybacking off of that, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, our friend Phil, joined Assemblyman Michael Tanusis from Staten Island and Assemblyman Patrick Kladinsky of Cheektowaga at a press conference to unveil a letter that they wrote to House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer in advance of Governor Hochul's testimony before the committee. Assemblyman Palmisano saying Congress should have all the facts in front of them when the governor testifies, so she is not able to spin a story that New York is handling the surge in migrants adequately. We need real answers from Governor Hochul on how she spent tax dollars and why she made the decision she did. Transparency is often lacking in New York State, so we want to make sure the truth comes out. I hope Chairman Comer and the members of the House Oversight Committee carefully consider our letter and work to get to the bottom of this important issue. Now, the letter, it's quick, but I think it is necessary in this conversation, saying, Dear Chairman Comer, in advance of Governor Hochul's upcoming testimony for the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, members of the New York State Assembly Republican Conference have compiled a series of critical questions we urge your committee to consider. One, I'm going to jump ahead here. These are questions. One, Governor Hochul, can you speak as to why the state did not change or address New York's sanctuary status during the height of the migrant crisis, even when Mayor Eric Adams, who was on the ground daily, said that we have to stop accepting migrants? And can you explain why you instead focused on criticizing the federal government's involvement while in the same breath requesting financial support? Two, can you speak on the vetting process for illegal migrants who were housed in New York? And can you address public safety concerns raised by local officials and your constituents? And part A, a lot of questions. That's two. Now 2A. How do you justify bypassing standard procedures regarding Albany's purported pay-to-play culture? And how do you reconcile your administration's use of emergency powers to approve contracts without thorough vetting, such as the $432 million no-bid out-of-state contract? How can New Yorkers trust that these emergency contracts are not being awarded based on political connections or campaign contributions rather than merit and accountability? 2B, what protocols were in place by these companies to make sure terrorists, dangerous gang members, and drug dealers were not let in? Did your team sit down with them to go over these concerns? Question 3, New York taxpayers are being forced to shoulder the financial burden of services for individuals who entered the country illegally, covering their warmth, housing, food, transportation, and more. How do you justify allocating $4.3 billion in taxpayer dollars to support individuals who entered the country illegally, while countless New York families who are citizens and legal residents are struggling to afford basic necessities like groceries, housing, and electricity, and the support provided to our own citizens is minuscule in comparison? Where is the compassion and fiscal responsibility for the people who have lived, worked, and paid taxes here their entire life? 4, what do you say to municipalities in Western New York that were forced to eat the cost after buses of migrants continuously arrived and were promised reimbursements that never came? How is it fair to expect local taxpayers to foot that bill while elected leaders turn a blind eye? And finally, question number 5, Turkish illegal migrant Sakir Akan, who entered the U.S. illegally in 2023, kidnapped and raped a 15-year-old girl in our capital district. He was later released with a ticket after a traffic stop. How do current bail reform policies ensure that individuals who commit serious crimes are promptly apprehended and held accountable? Specifically, how does your administration justify allowing a violent suspect to walk the streets for more than a month despite being identified by law enforcement? How many more lives have to be shattered before you end the reckless bail reform and sanctuary policies that are turning New York into a haven for criminals? So I thought that was important. We thank the Assemblyman and all those that signed on to that letter to Mr. Comer for those questions to Governor Hochul. Do I believe that she would answer those questions? That I do not believe. Or she will try to spin. Okay, let's move on from the riots. You can still obviously weigh in. Would love to have you weigh in on it. We'll have maybe a couple things at the end of the program. But there's a couple other topics that I think are worth keeping you up to date on. First of all, yesterday, billionaire Elon Musk, yes, what was a major topic last week, the feud between Musk and Trump, he said on Wednesday He regrets some of the posts he made last week about Donald Trump as they went too far. I think it's really when he started to try to get personal as compared to just focusing on the big, beautiful bill. But I think it was like someone holding, and I hate this term, but having like a tantrum, right? Where he went knee-jerk and just started going guns a-blazing. And it was a major mistake, and I think he realizes it now. There was no reason to go scorched earth on this. Trump and Musk began exchanging insults last week. We don't need to rehash all this. But President Trump, or someone shared a video of President Trump, and Elon reshared it, where it was Trump wishing Musk well in the future. And he put a little heart on it. Then later he said, I regret some of my posts about President Trump last week. They went too far. He tweeted that out on his social media platform, X. He did not say what specific posts he was talking about. Just interestingly enough, Tesla shares in Frankfurt were up 2.44% after Musk made that post. So he believes it went a little bit too far. I think as we watch that in real time, many of us would agree. But we got to take a short break. Get to your comments when we come back. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
William Mattar has earned a reputation for being a straight shooter.
Because I am a straight shooter.
For being honest.
Here's what we're willing to pay.
Because I am honest.
For winning a lot.
Because we win a lot.
If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, it matters who you hire. It matters in the experience as well as the results. Call William Mattar. Visit WilliamMattar.com.
Since 1983, Nissan has been assembling award-winning vehicles for you, right here in America. And we're committed to keeping our lineup affordable and free from new tariffs. That's why we've lowered MSRP on our best-selling Rogue and Pathfinder. So you can get the car you want, at the price you want, knowing Nissan is here for you at the Nissan Summer Sales Event.
Now get 0% APR financing for 60 months on the 2025 Nissan Rogue or Pathfinder.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are, look at that beautiful view, that picturesque view. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. And let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program. Steuben Senior Services, empowering seniors to age at home. This is where we read viewer comments. If you do have social media, one viewer writes, you will notice that the most fervent people are women. This is a product of in college indoctrination. They push toxic masculinity in men is bad, and I think it's worse in women. I know that that's been a study and a conversation I know we've had on the program in the past, but studying specifically when it comes to the anti-Semitic protests, why so many of those protesters are young college women. So yes, you raise an interesting point, something that I'm sure a lot of people are doing research on. Comments from a different viewer. Frank, what is your opinion on bringing back a pillory? Interesting. A pillory is a wooden or metal framework designed to secure head and hands in a public area, and individuals were mocked. Yeah, and like kind of the stereotype of shown in cartoons and a bad comic. You have the tomatoes and the rotten fruit thrown at you. You know, people can picture that in their head, right? Let's bring it back for Gavin Newsom and any other politician that have no new or positive solutions to make their community safe and positive again. Thank you for a little bit of a history lesson there. I like it. Well, that ties in with the tarred and feathered, right? Okay. Ken writes in, how America has changed. Many years ago, my wife's brother was arrested for wrapping the American flag around his shoulder. Excuse me. Let me start again. Many years ago, my wife's brother was arrested for wrapping the American flag around his shoulders as he walked in Hanover Square. Now we see countless examples of people burning and spitting on the flag with not only no consequences, but actually being praised by an entire political party for their action. Yeah, it is amazing how that's changed, kind of the flag code and how it used to be certain things were enforced. Now, that is the common thread, if you will, for many of these far-left protests, whether it's the anti-Semitic protests, whether it's this protest, whether the Antifa, the list goes on and on. Lighting the American flag, the media loves it. They go right to it, get that footage, and as many of the riders wave the Mexican flag. So yes, it has changed. Trump saying yesterday at Fort Bragg that he would like to see at least a 1 year in prison, 1 year in jail type punishment. I think he'll have trouble getting that through. But think about just a difference in general. Remember when, his name's going to escape me because I just put myself on the spot, but the baseball player who tackled that protester who was trying to light a flag in the middle of, I think it was center field, the baseball game. Yeah, times have changed. Hey, an update from yesterday. ABC News did fire Terry Moran days after he went on social media and had that outburst over Stephen Miller. We had speculated yesterday, someone else had really speculated, but we brought the opinion to you, that he probably would be fired because he's making enough money and ABC News is struggling in other ways, that he might have signed his own death warrant. Moran, who was originally suspended after his early morning tirade, and again, it's like people behind the scenes, and take it with a grain of salt because people behind the scenes, you don't know, excuse me, who those sources are, but they were saying all he did was reinforce President Trump's talking point and conservatives' talking point that the media is biased. What did he have to gain from this? Moran was said, let me take a step back. ABC News said, we are at the end of our agreement with Terry Moran, and based on his recent post, which was a clear violation of ABC News policies, we have made the decision to not renew. So he did this as his contract was running up. Wow. Continuing, at ABC News, we hold all our reports to the highest standards of objectivity, fairness, and professionalism, and we remain committed to delivering straightforward, trusted journalism. Well, forget that last part, whatever you think of what they said there. But it goes to show, I mean, how long has he worked there? And that bias has been inherent from the beginning. So now that he's been quote unquote caught, you just don't re-up his contract. But that just means all the time he was there, he was still pushing that same narrative. This does prove, but there's so many examples that prove our point that there is a left-wing bias in the media. It goes without saying. People don't even question it any longer. Now, as we had learned yesterday, with his experience and the time he'd been there, probably making about $600,000 and $900,000 a year. So it was an easy decision by the top brass. Now, Moran, who joined ABC News all the way back in 1997, I'm not going to go through his whole tweets. We already read that to you. He did delete it, but imagine, and he'll get a job somewhere, but imagine doing that as your contract is about to expire. Prove your bias. Now, an ABC News insider said there was no alternative in this scenario. It's just sad, the insider said. It's sad for him, a longtime colleague, friend, a good person, family man. It's just unfortunate, but there was no alternative, especially in these times. The network insider acknowledged that with the industry-wide issue of distrust of the legacy media no longer having any credibility at all, not addressing Moran's post promptly and having the drama dragged out could have cost ABC viewership, more loss in credibility. The ABC staffer said Moran, who had been with the network for 28 years, was beloved by his colleagues, insisted he wasn't some psycho-liberal like his post may have suggested. It's like a waxing and waning, type of like whimsical philosopher. That was his shtick. He was very folksy in the way that he did things like this. I kind of see maybe what he was trying to do. He used the wrong blanking words, obviously. I could get maybe what he was trying to say, but like, dude, put the phone down and go to bed. As far as I'm aware, there are no comments made so far by Moran. This coming off of ABC News, previously settling that lawsuit against George Stephanopoulos. So the list goes on and on. FBI Director Kash Patel is going to sue the MSNBC columnist Frank Figliuzzi for fabricating a specific lie about an outlandish nightclub claim. So Kash Patel, the FBI director, has filed a lawsuit in Texas against MSNBC, who falsely claimed the official spent more time in nightclubs than inside the Bureau's headquarters in Washington, D.C. Patel is suing Frank Figliuzzi for, quote, fabricating a specific lie about him, according to court documents, namely that reportedly Patel has been visible in nightclubs far more than he has been on the 7th floor of the Hoover building. The defendant knew that this was a lie when he said it, Patel's attorney alleged. Since becoming director of the FBI, Director Patel has not spent a single minute inside of a nightclub. The suit also claims there was no basis for the defendant's fabrication, and the defendant's use of the weasel word reportedly is itself a fabrication. Yes, that's what they'll say if they want to say an outlandish claim. Well, reportedly, or some are saying. It's such a, well, I like the term that they used, a weasel word. But Bob Costas, now, I know I say this without being to sound insulting, and I don't want this to sound as insulting as it may come off. When you have someone that announces sports, and has done so for quite some time, it's not normally who you first think to go to get a political opinion from. That's not to knock the job that they do. It's a very difficult job, but it's a different skill set. And I would not say that when I think politics, I wonder what Bob Costas feels about the issues of the day. Okay? Again, not being insulting, just saying you don't normally go to sports reporters and sports journalists for hard-hitting news. You go for sports, right? Nonetheless, Bob Costas wanted to weigh in on the mainstream media, suggesting that they're cowing to President Trump during his second term. This is what with Bob Costas winning a leadership award during his speech at the Mirror Awards in New York City, in what could be described as a long-winded speech that covered his career in broadcasting, patting himself on. That's one thing that's typical in any media, sports media, political media, news media, whatever. One thing they're always going to love to do, which is pat themselves on the back and tell you how important their job is, right? Speaking truth to power. And we see that so often, like with, and I can't think of his name now, from Dateline, giving that commencement speech about how important their job is and speak truth to power and get out there and fight the Trump administration, these type of things. Well, Bob Costas, patting himself on the back, he criticized his parent company, ABC, or criticized ABC's parent, Disney, for paying $15 million to settle a defamation lawsuit against George Stephanopoulos. Bob Costas saying, all they should have said was George misspoke. The president, that paradigm of virtue, was only found guilty of sexual assault, not rape. Costas, so we stand corrected, Costas said. They didn't have to pay a $15 million ransom. So you see the vitriol dripping from his speech against President Trump. Again, proving, and this was what was his name? Dylan McGuinn, I think, or Dylan Gwynn. Wrote a book about this years ago. I had an interview in the radio about it, talking about there's not just bias in the media that you think of, the legacy media. There's a clear left-wing bias in sports media, and you see why sports reporters get to decide who gets in the Baseball Hall of Fame and why Curt Schilling's not in the Hall of Fame, because he's a conservative. And he did this before even, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to go on a limb here, but don't quote me on it because I could be wrong. I think that book came out, Bias in the Booth is what it was called. I think it may have even come out either before Colin Kaepernick took a knee or right around that same time. But I'll continue. That's when people started noticing the left-wing bias in sports, by the way. So he decided, where is it? Where's the exact quote? Sorry. I got on a tangent there and didn't have the quote right in front of me. Okay, so Costa said, and did Sherry Redstone, because she wants to affect a merger that Trump's FCC can stand in the way of, did she have to besmirch and undercut the gold standard in our lifetime of broadcast journalism, 60 Minutes? Paying $20 million in ransom to Trump is just the cost of doing business when there's billions of dollars at stake. These are ongoing assaults on the basic idea of free press. Costas also took a jab at CNN, which he claimed has valorized Trump in the name of being balanced, dubbing such work as MAGA media. Yes, he believes that CNN is MAGA media, if that shows you how far left Bob Costas is. CNN brass has pushed for anchors to try to remain objective, heaven forbid, at a news outlet, to be objective, and that makes you MAGA media. Again, this is what Costas had to say. But if the answer to that is MAGA media, if the answer to that is Donald Trump's view of the world, which is only through a prism of what benefits him, there are no higher ideals. There are no principles at work other than what benefits him. I'll stay with where we are without correction if the correction is what Donald Trump represents. If someone says, and the idea that you have to find somebody who will not just defend Donald Trump, but valorize it, even on CNN or wherever else, just in the name of being balanced. Look, if someone is contending that the earth is flat, in order to appear objective, you are not required to say, well, maybe it's not, it might be oblong. No, it's not. Certain things are just true. So this was the argument the New York Times made initially when they said they didn't have to be fair in their coverage of Trump. This was years ago, back in 2016, because to what Bob Costas' worldview looks like, being in the media his whole life, you don't have to have on the other side. Donald Trump is so bad because Bob Costas is so egotistical that right now this is the most important time in the history of the world because Bob Costas is there right now and he's upset that about certain Donald Trump policies. So they've got to be the worst policies. It's got to be the worst thing because it makes Bob Costas mad. So we don't have to report on the other side because Trump is that bad. Remember that when they talk about the importance of free speech and how they're the defenders of free speech, you don't have to have on somebody else, somebody that supports Trump's policies, because that would be no different than having a flat earther on. The sad thing is Bob Costas is making such a cliche old argument that the left has been making for years, and he thinks he's brilliant by repeating it 10 years later. But Bob Costas is concluding, and regrettably, something that's true in America right now is that the President of the United States has absolutely no regard and, in fact, has contempt for basic American principles and basic common decency after he just goes against basic American principles like free speech. Interesting. All right. Speaking of military bias, yes, I'm running late. Speaking of military bias, Trump's military parade happening this weekend may not get much coverage, surprise, surprise, on legacy media such as CBS, NBC, and ABC. Does a parade meant to celebrate the nation truly exist if they can't get national broadcast TV? Of course, make no mistake, this is a message to Trump and their dislike of Trump. So don't expect coverage of the military parade on CBS, NBC, or ABC. We'll be right back. Keep those comments coming in. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Children learn from our behaviors. They learn what is okay from the adults they see. If you're a distracted driver, chances are they will be too. What kind of driver are you raising?
Your engines. Start making memories. It's Salem's 6 Hours of the Glen, the ultimate start to summer. Be here as IMSA's top drivers go head-to-head on one of the most historic courses in racing. Get your tickets at theglen.com today.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to the Student Senior Services Fund section of our program as we read a viewer comment. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. I think it's easy to understand the allure of radical ideas for the young people. They seem to live in the cyber world as much or more than in the real one. And it has been more so since the COVID lockdown. Remember what Rush Limbaugh used to say, skulls full of mush. Thank you very much. Nice reminder of Rush Limbaugh. I mentioned this quickly. Hochul was met by a course of booze at the Belmont Stakes. I did not hear this, but they've released a video. One observer calling the moment very awkward. This is at the Belmont Stakes when she was handing over the trophy. Now, I actually turned the channel not for some protest of Hochul. I didn't turn it. I left the room or something. I saw that she was there because one viewer had predicted that we would see her quite a bit during the broadcast, but I didn't pay attention to what she had to say. So I might have missed the booze altogether. Harry Tunwan, a former Troy mayor, was at the race, and he said he wasn't surprised by the icy reception for Hochul. Her popularity is not good, especially in upstate New York. So he captured the moment on his phone. The boos were for her, but the minute the trophy was hoisted in the air, the place started cheering. It was not because they were unhappy with the winner or the trainer or the jockey. They were unhappy with the governor. So I missed that, but you may have seen it. Okay. Democrats agree to pass New York prison reforms in the session's waning hours. How do you think this is going to go in Albany? The omnibus bill, introduced Monday night, would require the disclosure of video footage related to the death of an incarcerated person that involves a corrections officer to the state attorney general's office within 72 hours. You know, I'm not going to read all these. Basically what it is, it's one way. It's, again, accusing and attacking the corrections officers. It's not protecting the corrections officers at all. Jolene Sadiford, a former corrections officer at Ulster Correctional Facility, lost his job after participating in the strike and said violence increased in his facility after halt because of this law. He told lawmakers they must change the law. They're not listening to us at all. They're going to leave it as is, and you just have to show up to work. It's frustrating. It makes it hard to do our job. So it does not address the HALT Act. It's kind of a one direction looking to put the blame on all corrections officers. But listen to this. This is a weird one. New York passed a bill requiring stores to accept cash payments, protecting unbanked and low-income shoppers. So I remember when we talked about this in the past, where the term homeless was changed at certain levels to the unhomed. So it must mean if you don't have a checking account or if you don't have a savings account, that must be referred to as unbanked. Interesting. That caught my attention right away. But just the fact that we have to make a law in Albany to require, I mean, cash is king, right? Shouldn't in the United States, you have to accept cash if you're going to be a business? But the New York State Legislature has passed legislation prohibiting food stores and retail establishments from declining cash payments. The legislation, which aims to make sure that cash remains a valid form of payment in New York State, passed both houses of the state legislature. Many New Yorkers who rely on cash as their primary method of payment, and said the legislation ensures that low-income, elderly, and unbanked individuals can continue to access essential goods and services. I think that's fair. I don't have any problem with the bill itself that I know of at face value. I find the term unbanked very interesting. And the HEAT Act, which so many people are concerned could pass in New York State, has gotten a last-minute rebrand. So keep this in mind. It's no longer called the HEAT Act. It's called the Customer Savings and Reliability Act. So when something is so over the top in what they're promising you just in the name of the act or in the name of the bill. Keep it in mind. That's when the red flags should start popping up. But they say it's very uncatchy, but they're trying to kind of propagandize the language. Something that Phil Palmisano, our friend, the ranking member on the Energy Committee, is still reviewing the bill, but was unimpressed, saying they continue to change it because they keep realizing that their bill as they wrote is not feasible, not reliable, and not tenable. But I'm still convinced they're heading down the wrong path with this. We're going to go through the bill with a fine-tooth comb. So no longer the HEAT Act, the Customer Savings and Reliability Act. Okay, we're going to have to breeze through some things quickly because we're running out of time on this program. One last New York State issue, for what it's worth. Mike Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York City, he became very heavy-handed, very much for government overreach. If you recall, that's around the time they banned trans fats, even though it was well known that he liked trans fats and had it at certain parties and fundraisers. He banned the big gulp, the big gigantic drinks at convenience stores. He was very strict and changed a lot of rules on smoking, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Michael Bloomberg, he ran as Republican after Giuliani because he thought a Republican could win. He was Republican, but he clearly wasn't. So then I believe he ran as Democrat and then Independent, or it might have went Independent Democrat. I can't remember, but I think he hit all three parties. He's endorsed Andrew Cuomo's comeback bid for City Hall. I care deeply about the future of our city, and since leaving office, it has been difficult to watch its struggles, especially since the pandemic. I'm sizing up the field in the race for mayor. There is one candidate whose management experience and government know-how stand above the others, Andrew Cuomo. I wouldn't want a Mike Bloomberg endorsement, but nonetheless, there it is. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Hey, this is John with John's Tree Service. We are locally owned and insured and rated A+ with the Better Business Bureau. John's Tree Service, your source for all your tree needs, where customer satisfaction is our guarantee. Give us a call today at 607-377-6513.
Attention all, it's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta, a day full of fun for all ages. Register at watkinsglen.com/waterfront festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025. Race starts at 2 p.m. On your mark, get set, row.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. And let's go to the Student Senior Services Fund section of our program, where we read viewer comments. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Rick. Trump says no protesting at his birthday parade Saturday, or the protesters will be met with extreme force. Isn't that illegal? Look, I'm glad they are celebrating the Army's anniversary. Our youngest son was a staff sergeant in the Army and did 2 battle tours in Iraq. His oldest son is currently an officer and Army Ranger. So let's make this about the Army and not Trump. I'm trying to come up with a reason to celebrate Trump, but I'm not coming up with anything. Maybe he should go to Mar-a-Lago for the weekend. And where does Trump get off saying the protesters in L.A. are hired by Newsom? Trump would hire protesters or a mob based on his past behavior. Maybe all the other cities hosting anti-ICE events are hiring protesters too. Where's Trump come up with this stuff? Looks like Donald had one too many McFlurries before climbing back onto Air Force One over the weekend. I did catch Governor Newsom's address tonight or last night. He was spot on when it comes to Trump. The moment that we feared has arrived. I don't think he likes Trump much. This is getting ugly. Turning our own military against our people week so week. I know reading between the lines, you're not a fan of Trump, but did you really think Gavin Newsom did that great? Put aside, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. I mean, I guess there was a lot of hyperbole, and that might fit your feelings on what is happening. I didn't think the overall message was all that good. He didn't even get the time frame right. I mean, he said that all of this started on Saturday when it clearly happened on Friday, but you kind of want your governor to know that type of thing when the streets are on fire. But okay, I don't know. I thank you for your opinion, though. If people disagree with me, thinking Gavin Newsom did great, let me know. Comment from a different viewer that did not know Rick wrote in, but it's kind of interesting. Frank, it's time for the Encourage a Liberal segment. The stock market is great. Musk and Trump are making up, and Trump probably won't want Canada until they get their fires put out. Thank you very much. And final comment for this segment, the Student Senior Services Fund segment. Frank, it's going to be gorgeous sunny day. Enjoy it and have a great day. You too. Thank you so much. How nice of you. All right, we're going to have to breeze through because we are nearly running out of time. Trump did order names restored to the military bases, honoring Robert E. Lee and other Confederate leaders, saying, we won a lot of battles out of those forts. It's no time to change. And I'm superstitious, you know. I like to keep it going, right? I'm very superstitious. We want to keep it going, so that's a big story. The base that hosted Trump was itself recently renamed, though in that case, the Army in February restored its original moniker to World War II paratrooper and Silver Star recipient Roland Bragg, rather than Confederate General Braxton Bragg. Former President Joe Biden renamed. We know all of that. That was just one of the announcements coming from that speech at Fort Bragg yesterday. Trump administration prevails as an appeals court paused the lower court's decision that was blocking his contested tariffs. Congress members, we'll get to that in a moment. Let me take a break. Get your last second comments in so I can read them before we wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. How much did we cover today? My goodness. Stay with us. Frankly Speaking, almost in the books. Don't go anywhere.
It's the Watkins Glen Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta June 14th at 2 p.m. It'll be a great time. And you'll be saying H2O to these boat designs. So what are you doing June 14th? Go to the Watkins Glen Cardboard Boat Regatta.
Attention, it's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta. A day full of fun for all ages. Register at watkinsglen.com/waterfront festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14th, 2025. Race starts at 2 p.m. On your mark, get set, row.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at WYDCTV.com.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you. Hold on a second. There we go. Brought to you by Boss Security. I had a weird button freezing up. Boss Security, contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to viewer comments. Brought to you by Student Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. Frank, enjoy the beautiful day. Hey, how nice is that? Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Forgive me, but these titles they give out are just laughable. Unbanked, for example, is ridiculous. It's just another way to try to convince some people how challenged they are when, in fact, anyone can get a bank account, can they not? They use the same tactics for voting, claiming the underprivileged can't go to a polling place. That's very awkward when they make that, when it comes to voter ID, when they make that argument. These are just more lies intended to keep them down so they can take advantage and keep ripping off the people to pay for programs that do nothing but pad the pockets of the lawmakers and others. Thank you very much. And hey, how nice is this? Frank, Love the show and very thankful for an individual like you. Well, I'm very thankful for you and all the viewers. So thank you. That made my day. What a nice way to end the program as I breeze through and get tongue-tied at as many stories as we can fit in a few moments. The Rodney King riots officer, LAPD Chief Jim McDonald, said Karen Bass is now trying to play catch-up. I think, this is Moses Castillo, a former LAPD detective. My apologies. She's now trying to play catch-up. I think it would have been very more forceful in the beginning that we're not going to tolerate these crimes and allow police officers to do their job and arrest people on site. I think it would have to be different. Instead, she's now saying it's now that the crimes would not be tolerated, looting would not be tolerated, but it's a little bit too little, too late. Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, claimed on Tuesday that California is a sanctuary state and that the Democrat Party is committed to the singular proposition of migrant flooding every city in the county. That means every criminal alien arrested by local police is, by order of the state, set free back into the community instead of being handed over to ICE. The New York Post editorial board says the Democrats are smearing Trump as authoritarian, but they were oddly quiet over some of Joe Biden's strong arm tactics. Confusing their left-wing base for the American center, Democrats, LA Mayor Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom, others are attacking Trump for taking an approach voters support. And so their words embolden rioters and fuel violence, infuriating average Americans and handing Trump and the GOP a political gift. Just like that gift of those photos of the Mexican flag being flown as the streets on fire. They're only further deepening the nation's divides while digging themselves into deeper holes. Finally, Congressman Nick Langworthy introduced the Stop Dangerous Sanctuary Cities Act of 2025, saying he stands with ICE and condemns violent political protests. Congressman Nick Langworthy saying the violence we are seeing happening in LA right now is a cautionary tale for New York, another sanctuary state catering to criminal illegal immigrants and left-wing extremists. State and local government must comply with federal immigration enforcement efforts, and if they don't, the Stop Dangerous Sanctuary Cities Act would withhold federal financial assistance from them. We must stand with our heroic ICE officers, our men and women in blue, and with the American people who cry out for safety and common sense in their local governments. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for all the great comments. We'll be back tomorrow morning with Frankly Speaking only on WYDC TV. Big Fox, I look forward to it already.
William Matar has a reputation for being a good guy.
Because I am a good guy.
For being focused on motor vehicle accident cases.
Because I focus on motor vehicle accidents.
For fighting for his clients.
Because I fight for my clients.
If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, it matters who you hire. It matters in the experience as well as the results. Call William Matar. Visit WilliamMatar.com.
Time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.